the individual who represented or is a managing partner for Lock Lord, and we asked each different law firm, do you know this vendor? Are you familiar with this issue? And do you have any experience with this? So of the firms that we interviewed, all of the firms but one said, no, I've never heard of that vendor and I'm not familiar with that issue. One of the firms, and this is a really, really important potential issue for us. One of the vendors, Lock Lord, indicated, yes, I know this vendor. Yes, I'm familiar with this issue. And in fact, I've represented insurance companies on this issue. So as a result, we weighed the cost-benefit analysis. Hey, does Kimi really need this service? Hopefully we don't, but if we do, we need someone who has that expertise and experience. This firm had that. So knowing that $1,100 is a lot of money, an outrageous, in some words, hourly rate, we felt like the benefit to Kimi was worth it. Now, I will note that our personal service contract is limited to $20,000 because we wanted to make sure that we limited our use of someone, this firm, at $1,100 an hour would be limited to this one specific issue on this one specific reason.
Was the RFP constructed that way as well, that it's for one specific issue?
No, this is a broad RFP, corporate governance to civil litigation to regulatory issues, but this firm applied for multiple different areas, and in our interview process and in our selection process, we weighed it and we said, you know what, we're not going to use this firm for X, Y, Z, but if this issue comes up, and right now I don't think it will, Senator Meredith, but if it does, I wanted someone who could advise us and give us counsel on this very important situation.
Understood. I guess one of my concerns, though, is it kind of sets precedent. Have you ever paid over $1,000 an hour for legal services before?
No, I think I'm under oath. We had a groom law office in Washington, D.C. who helped us with our DB retirement plan. I think they were around $985 an hour. I think I came before this committee and answered questions in that situation as well. This is the first time that, in my knowledge, that Kimi's ever paid more, theoretically, have ever retained someone for more than $1,100 an hour.
Well, I know inflation is hitting all of us now, so next year, will this be $1,200? That's a rhetorical question. I don't expect you to answer that one, but it's crazy. Sorry. That's all I have.
Okay, Senator Douglas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You mentioned that the vendor applied in multiple different areas. My question is, does that vendor require this level of compensation for each of those particular areas? My concern is maybe in a very specialized area, there is a requirement or a need for that type of reimbursement. But in the other areas where someone else could handle them at a much less cost, is this vendor then going to say, well, since you've taken us and you've agreed to give us this money?
And so the question is, what hourly rate is going to be charged us depending upon what the work is, because there is a $473 to almost $1,200 an hour range. I can only speak to this is my vendor that I will use, and when I retain them, Senator Douglas, I will say, Ms. Warinsky, that's the managing partner at Lock & Lord, I need you to work on this, and I know he's going to charge me top dollar, so I'm going to select it, and it's going to be for that very, very limited issue and that limited dollar. It's not going to be a wide range. Hey, I'm going to have an associate work on this or whatever. I'm hiring this law firm. I'm hiring this attorney because of their experience and expertise. And I don't know, Senator Douglas, if that's the answer to your question, but there is a whole range. I will tell you that I have identified one issue with one attorney for that hourly rate.
Ma'am, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
One more follow-up. Well, that in fact is my concern, that it's almost sort of a carte blanche of no matter what issue you're going to work on, this is the range that we are willing to pay. And my concern is, are there other vendors that might be able to address areas that require less expertise and therefore save the taxpayers some money versus going with this particular vendor who now has this range that they can apply to any number of different areas that they're going to be working on.
And Senator Douglas, I will say to clarify, it's not going to be a range of cases or issues or whatever. It's going to be one very, very specific issue that if arises, I'm going to have to use this firm. As to your concern about taxpayer money, this is Kimi policyholder money, and I treat this money as if it is my own family money. When I write a check, would I write a check to a $1,100 an hour lawyer? No, I wouldn't, unless the situation called for it. So I take great pride in being a gatekeeper in protecting Kimi policyholder money, because I think it's really, really important. In this situation, again, Senator Douglas, I'm weighing the cost-benefit analysis. I have this potential large need for this very highly specialized area versus an extremely high dollar amount. I don't take it lightly. I hope you guys, excuse me, ma'am, I hope this committee understands that this is a very important job for me, that I take it very, very seriously to protect our revenue and our expenses.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right. Any other questions? If not, do I have a motion to approve this contract?
Motion approved.
Motion by Co-Chair Meredith, second by Representative Pollock. All those in favor vote aye. All those opposed vote nay. Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Boswell, Senator Douglas,
Aye.
Senator Yates, Representative Chester Burton,
Pass.
Representative McCool,
Yes.
Representative Pollock,
Yes.
Senator Meredith.
I'd like to explain my vote. I vote aye, and just want to use the opportunity to thank Mr. Feld. You're always very responsive to our questions, and we appreciate you coming here. I know it's every year, but I do appreciate that your openness and your commitment to the job you do. So thank you. Again, I'm an aye.
Thank you, Senator.
Chairman Hart.
Yes, motion carries. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
The next item on the pulled list is with Personnel Office of the Secretary and is number 62 on the PSC Amendment Ivory list. And if you could identify yourself for the record,
Robert Long, General Counsel for the Personnel Cabinet.
and could you raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you, sir. And I think Co-Chair Meredith has a question on this.
I do appreciate you joining us this morning, and we have been down this road before with Korn Ferry. First, the co-chair is going to know my objection that it's a California firm, but we've already engaged these folks to do a job for the Commonwealth. But it concerns me that we're increasing it by $37,000 to review 50 additional positions. Again, this contract goes back to the mid-'70s, does it not? The original contract, I believe.
I don't know the exact date. I believe the Commonwealth's first involvement with Korn Ferry was in the late 70s. This particular methodology, the compensation methodology with Korn Ferry, began being utilized in 1987.
And this is we grade each position within the employment of the Commonwealth and set salary ranges, so forth.
Well, they're going to assist with the compensation and classification report, and specifically this modification is to help continue to work through June 30th to assist with that compensation and job review. As you probably know, House Bill 444 allocated another $500,000 for to assist with contractual obligations to complete this overarching class and comp review by November 1. We don't want to lose any momentum, and this additional funding is to ensure that that process is continuing on through June 30th, so that because that funding won't be available till July 1.
Well, the concern I have with is like most consulting contracts, it looks like an add-on. I mean, we approve a contract every year or 2 years for this group to keep this system up to date and in place, and I don't understand why. I mean, jobs change every year, and I would think that would be part of the responsibility to monitor that, gauge that, and whether we add 50 job descriptions or 100, it looks like that would be included in the fee that we had previously approved. Is that unreasonable?
Well, I'm not familiar with all of the services that Korn Ferry provides. I know the original contract, though, was not necessarily, or this original contract was not necessarily for these types of services. It was really to help train staff at the personnel cabinet because we had lost so many employees. I think if you go back to the original contract, the description was for a different set of services. So it is a bit added on to add for additional things that were not originally envisioned in the original contract.
Then if this is additional, different, wouldn't that warrant a separate RFP?
It's still related to what they're doing, and it involves the analysis of their, my understanding is the needed analysis into their specific expertise, meaning the application of their point factoring method of which they are the sole proprietor.
Well, that's the point I'm trying to make, is they've got proprietary ownership for the system that we've had in place since the 70s. We're kind of at the mercy to them just to maintain their own system. We have previously approved a contract for them to do that very thing. Now they're asking for additional $37,000 because we have 50 jobs that need to be reviewed. And my question again is, shouldn't that be within the original contract that they have? I mean, it's their system. We're always going to be at their mercy. So
Ultimately, I don't know that I have the information to answer that. I can try to get back with you, but I will note that this is the third modification of this contract because additional requests of their services have been made by personnel. I don't know that necessarily Korn Ferry is asking for this. We're asking for Korn Ferry's assistance in completing the compensation review.
well, I hope the personnel cabinet's just not saying, hey, these are good folks and they work hard and they're doing some additional work, so let's give them another $37,000. That's not the case, is it?
No, sir.
So how do we measure even 37,000 is a reasonable amount? What's the standard that we use here?
The pricing is contained in the contract. The breakdown is on page 8 of the contract modification. Outside of that, I am not an expert on those details, but that's how the breakdown is calculated.
That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Any other questions? If not, do I have a motion to consider the contract reviewed without objection?
I'll make a motion to disapprove the contract because I think that the additional fees should be included in the original contract with the firm.
Second.
I have a motion made by Co-Chair Meredith, a second by Representative Chester Burton. All those in favor vote aye. All those opposed vote nay. Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Boswell, Senator Douglas,
Aye.
Senator Yates, Representative Chester Burton,
Yes.
Representative McCool,
Yes.
Representative Pollock, Senator Meredith,
Aye.
Chairman Hart.
Yes, motion passes. Thank you, sir, for your testimony. Let's see. The final items on the pull list are with the Department of Education. Anybody here? Please come forward and identify yourself for the record.
Good morning. My name is Karen Worth, and I'm with the Division of Budgets and Financial Management at the Department of Education.
Good morning, co-chairs and esteemed members of the Government Contract Review Committee. My name is Thomas Tucker. I'm the Deputy Commissioner and Chief Equity Officer at the Kentucky Department of Education. Pleasure to be here this morning.
Thank you, guys. And could you please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
I do.
Thank you. And Senator or Co-Chair Meredith.
Bet you folks are glad I showed up today, huh? Appreciate you being here. Good to see you again. I guess maybe sorry you got to be before us again, but we're going to it's kind of like Groundhog Day. We just do it all over again. And what concerns me about these two contracts is, again, they are presently covered by federal funding, which we know is going to expire. And what's the date of that again?
We have some money that is expiring September 30th of this year, and then we have ARP ESSER money in '24, September 30th of '24. So that's the end date.
Yes.
What happens after 24?
Those federal funds go away.
And what happens to these positions? What happens to this?
We've done well, first of all, I want to say thanks to the Government Contract Review Committee for approving these original contracts, these 9 contracts, through September 24th, September 30th, 2024. So thank you for approving that last year. And thanks for continuing to ask the question, how can we ensure continuity of the services, of the great work that this group of folks have done? And at some point, I would certainly like to share some data with you regarding the great work they've done, because you all have requested that and you've stated that you'll certainly keep an eye on this, and I do applaud you for doing that. So to quickly answer, Senator Meredith, to quickly answer your question, to ensure continuity of services, our folks are cross-trained with our ed co-ops and at the Kentucky Department of Education to not only continue this work, but also they're carrying out other work, literacy. They're working with our CRISA teams that was established to address responses to the coronavirus. They're also working with numeracy. So they're doing a multitude of things. You've approved our funding for deeper learning, ensuring that students are not just engaging in rote facts and rote memorization. So in other words, they're doing cross-training and adding a greater value added to not only the respective co-ops, but also across the Commonwealth.
I appreciate that, but I'm not sure that answers my question. Is what happens after 2024? How these positions going to be funded?
Yes, as Mrs. Worth said, these positions technically go away, not necessarily the people, not necessarily the responsibilities.
I'm sorry, would you say that again, please?
Okay. The positions will go away. The funding, the federal funding for the positions will go away, but not necessarily, could be, but not necessarily the people or some of the jobs and the impacts that they've made throughout the Commonwealth.
So they will remain in some capacity.
They could, because of cross-training, or the ed co-ops may hire these folks in some other capacity. But the impact, what we're seeing very early on, and we're monitoring this data very closely, and I would welcome an opportunity to speak with each one of you separately about the work that this team is doing and the early impacts that we're seeing right now. So again, the positions technically will go away, but not necessarily the people or the services that they are rendering, because they're cross-training, doing other responsibilities within the ed co-ops.
You must have watched some of my other committee meetings, because when you say return on investment, it's like you're sweet talking me, and I appreciate that. I love return on investment. So you're saying these positions do generate a documentable return on investment.
Absolutely. One of the areas that these folks and other folks in the agency have worked on is ensuring that more students in the Commonwealth are taking advanced placement exams. As you know, our students don't pay for advanced placement exams. You, our lawmakers, our school principals, and our ed co-op folks, and of course our folks at the Kentucky Department of Education, in 2022 saved taxpayers almost $30 million in college tuition.
It's a good number. I appreciate that.
And, if you need, and I do have that data here, so if you need that, I can certainly give you that.
I'll always take you at face value. You've always been very upfront and honest with me. I always appreciate our dialogue. My concern is we never had enough money for education. We're spending 38 cents of every dollar in Kentucky on education. It's not enough. We all would agree to that. If you add in what we're paying for teachers' retirement and the additional contribution that our legislature's made to get us out of this big financial hole that we have for teacher retirement. We're spending 52 cents of every dollar on education, which leads truly the nation, and we got to wrap our arms around that. I'm concerned this next budget cycle, which is going to be our 2024 coming up in January, folks are going to ask for more money for education, and that certainly is warranted, and I certainly support that. But I just need assurances that every dollar that we're currently spending is being spent in the right place. And you folks, I know I'm preaching to the choir here, that with reading and math scores being as dismal as they are, I just want assurances that we're spending our dollars wisely and that there is, in fact, a return on investment.
One of my other major jobs, and I love talking with Senator Southworth about this, is heading up the Office of Teaching and Learning. And again, I want to thank the General Assembly for your support for the LETRS training, the Read to Achieve Act, to increase literacy amongst our young people. And what we're seeing right now with the LETRS training and the number of staff finally engaging in a scientifically research-based approach to teaching literacy. And from my perspective, having the entire Commonwealth behind it, or most of the Commonwealth behind it, you're going to see some great numbers when kids start to learn to read, and they read to learn.
Well, I appreciate your answers and appreciate the passion you bring to this greatly. It's very meaningful for me. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Senator Douglas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Pardon me, I may have missed something. How did we save $30 million?
In terms of when students score 3 or higher on an AP exam, that translates into college level credit. That equates to $30 million when you look to the number of students and the number of AP tests in which students scored 3 or higher. And I would like to say this, and I'll say this very briefly. We talk about providing opportunities for folks, not giving folks handouts, but providing opportunities for folks. Our African American students in the Commonwealth increased their scores in 2022 by 40%, in which they scored 3 or higher. We had 30% more students, African American students, the year before taking AP exams. So this is working, and it is saving taxpayers money. And when you look at the request for, I think it's $58,000 for one co-op, and I think $12,000 for the other. So you're looking at, I don't know, wasn't a math major, so $70,000, almost $68,000, $70,000 that we're asking for. It's a continuation because we did a great job of saving the taxpayers money, and we had a carryover from the previous year. And remember, the contract you all approved was through 2024. This carryover, the $70,000 in carryover, will take care of that and will allow us to fulfill our contractual obligation.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, may I ask one more, please? Thank you, Mr. Chair. Some federal money we've already talked about goes away September 30 of this year.
That's correct.
Okay. And then the other federal money goes away September 30 of 2024.
Yes, that's correct.
I've heard the comment, the people may remain, but they may be in a little bit different capacity. Are they going to work for free?
I take that to be a rhetorical question because I don't know how many folks work for free. We're in education or servant leaders, and we certainly in the private sector, in jobs and occupations many of you had, would make triple the money we work. So in a sense, some of us are working for free, but we will be expecting, and they will be expecting, a salary. So to answer that question, no.
Okay. I apologize if
No,
that
no
sounds that
problem.
way. I don't mean it that way.
Yeah.
It just leads me to, I apologize, Mr. Chair, but one more question. Where's the money coming from when the federal money goes away?
Again, these positions may go away. Some of our ed co-ops may say we don't have the funds to keep these positions. But again, if you talk with any of our executive directors, and you've had some of them here before and some of them you represent, they'll tell you that they are doing the best they can. I think they're doing a great job of integrating the current work that our folks are doing, and it's not all DEIB work. Although we believe, and I say unabashedly, I think that providing people equitable opportunities, regardless of their backgrounds, to succeed should be the main thing that we're doing here in education. So our Ed Co-op directors, executive directors, are again, they're cross-training these folks to do things beyond diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. They're doing other things like literacy we talked about, helping to increase numeracy across the Commonwealth.
I guess for me, I apologize, Mr. Chair. I guess what I'm trying to get to is ultimately, will there be an approach to the General Assembly to ask for funding for this to continue?
Yeah, I cannot speak on that. That
Okay.
will be a decision by the Kentucky Board of Education and our commissioner.
All right, thank you, sir.
Sure.
Thank you.
Representative McCool.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to follow up with that, and I appreciate what you said you've been doing and the success you've been having. Would it be possible about reallocation of funding within KDE to ensure that not the positions, but the service is provided? Is that a consideration?
That is consideration, and under the leadership of our commissioner, that has come up, Representative McCool, as well as looking at vacancies in other areas in our department across the agency, 8 different departments in the agency, and being able to perhaps slot people in those areas. Again, we're really trying to ensure that this is not just a job of one person. If the commissioner goes away, I go away, or the Kentucky Board of Education members go away, that we can continue this work. But to your point, we're looking at reallocating funds, existing funds, not adding or asking for additional funds, but also ensuring that some of our people are able to slot in some of the vacancies, hence the cross-training.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Just a comment and then follow up on the 30 million that you was talking about, and you mentioned the AP tests,
Yes.
classes, dual credits. Those opportunities for high school students to take advantage of those in the high school, is that kind of, again, the 30 million that we're saving as part of that?
That's just AP alone. That doesn't count dual enrollment.
I got you.
Yeah,
Okay.
doesn't count dual enrollment. So that's a great opportunity for us to help level the playing field for students who are coming from wealthy households or students who are coming from poor households, regardless of their background.
Absolutely, and I've got 2 daughters that took advantage of both of those dual credits, and obviously it's a partnership with the local colleges, universities, along with offering that opportunity with the, I guess, Department of Education,
Yes.
and our high school high school teachers being equipped to teach those classes. And so it's a win-win for everybody in those opportunities when high school students take advantage of that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
I have one question. It's more. Representative Chester Burton, go ahead.
Yes, I just wanted to make a comment, please, if I may. As a person who has a school, Western High School is in my district, they have those type of opportunities for those students. And it has been noted that it has been well received. I also want to applaud your efforts as a person that has been an educator, worked in K through 12 post-secondary, as well as the diversity training for the National Education Association. DEI is something that we must continue to put on the forefront because of all of the efforts that have been made and all of the inroads that have come from it. And so I just applaud that. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have one question that's more from my curiosity, and you might not be able to answer, but I'm going to ask anyways. I too have daughters that have taken advantage of both the dual credit and the AP classes while in school. Do you see one or the other of them gaining popularity versus? I know when I was in school, there wasn't really dual credit opportunities. But now that it seems like there's a tremendous amount of dual credit, do you see the AP class enrollment maybe declining because of that, or vice versa? Or?
Representative Hart, that has been one of the most fundamental questions for me for the past 23 years. And the best answer I can give you is that if you're planning on staying in state, if students are planning on staying in the Commonwealth of Kentucky, my daughter attends the University of Kentucky, then the dual enrollment probably best suits the student. But if a student knows for sure he or she is going outside of the Commonwealth, then if you had to make a choice, I would pick AP. But what we were able to do 20 years ago in Hilliard, Ohio, some of our students we had both AP and dual enrollment students sitting in the same classroom. So again, I really believe it's what's being offered in your interest and whether you're staying in state or not. We know readily AP will transfer anywhere in America, plus American territories, and IB obviously travels internationally. In dual enrollment, unless there's an articulation agreement outside of the state, that credit probably won't count.
Thank you for that. Is there any other questions? If not, we have a motion to consider the contracts reviewed without objection.
I make a motion.
Second.
Motion made by Representative Chester Burton, second by Co-Chair Meredith. All those in favor vote aye. All those opposed vote nay. Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Boswell, Senator Douglas,
I'll pass.
Senator Yates, Representative Chester Burton,
Yes.
Representative McCool,
Yes.
Representative Pollock,
Yes.
Chairman Meredith,
Aye.
Chairman Hart.
Yes, motion carries. Thank you so much for your testimony.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Please take a moment to review items 12, 13, and 14 on the agenda, which are exemption requests. And is there a motion to approve the same?
Motion.
Motion by Co-Chair Meredith, second by Representative Pollock. Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Boswell, Senator Douglas,
Aye.
Senator Yates, Representative Chester Burton.
Yes.
Representative McCool.
Yes.
Representative Pollock.
Yes.
Senator Meredith,
Aye.
Chairman Hart.
Yes, motion carries. Before we adjourn, our next scheduled meeting will be Tuesday, June the 13th at 9 a.m. in this room. If there's no other further items for discussion, we are adjourned.